You're listening to the Valley Current.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, good evening. Welcome into the Valley Current. This is part 2 of the series that we started about doing yoga, and I hit my 66th yoga session consecutively, more or less. Actually, it was kind of a break during the holidays because the studio closed, but I did some at home, but I didn't count. I didn't really count. So I'm on my way to 100, but I guess the magic number is more like 190 or something, right? Because you're running a new series, right?
A new challenge. So if you got 66, you ought another 90.
Got to do another 90 behind that to win the challenge.
There you go.
So I wanted to sort of talk about, like, you see some amazing things after about the first 40 or 50 sessions. And I do think it's worthwhile to sort of remark about this. We don't have to take a lot of time to do it because I do think you learn a lot more about your body by doing yoga and learning how far you can go and where the edges are, and then how you push yourself beyond them. And you do things you didn't think you could do before. I mean, just touching your toes again, is like a big deal, getting to that point where your body's actually stretched that far. But you must notice different people probably report different things. But I wondered how many actually get to 40 consecutive sessions to actually report, or is it more like, oh, that happens all the time?
No, well, it happens differently for each person. And each person's success is very different from the other. Like maybe your audience doesn't know how tall you are and how long your legs are, but when you touched your toes, this sense of joy came over you.
Right.
And
you capture a bit of your youth again.
Yeah. And who doesn't, like babies, when they grab their toes, they're happy. And that's why they call that one pose happy baby, because you're grabbing your toes and you're playful and stuff.
Right.
So different people, the first time somebody goes up in a wheel pose, you'll see a sense of joy come over them. There's many different parts in a class where you become a great noticer of your own body each time you unroll a mat, whether it's what you're doing on the mat or how you feel in life. So that's a definite benefit of yoga and consistency. It's all about the consistency.
Right. But it seems like there's a lot of people that start and stop. I think that's a big problem in the whole industry, including health clubs and, weightlifting and diets, and people do it after the holidays. In fact, I started in October, literally, like, I think it was near my birthday, which, I sort of like said, hey, I've got to like try to push myself to do some stuff that's going to enable me to have a better birthday next year. And so the idea was, get started and do it. And I think a lot of people just flake out. I don't know what happens. Maybe life takes over.
They do. There is an industry standard kind of thing that will be happening soon. So many people make a resolution, and then the gym parking lots are packed. And then around February 15th, gone. They're gone. And this is why most gyms will have you sign a year contract. They know that's going to happen. So they're getting you to sign it when you're all amped up. Yeah, I'm going to do this. And then come March and April, you're like, poop, I got to pay another 8 months and I'm not going to go and use it. But that really doesn't happen at our yoga studio as much as it does at gyms. Like you were there towards the end of December and the studio was full. I started logging how many times people came. I had one woman who over the year, and three months were missing, and she was there for 313 times. And most of the people that were in the studio in December were over the 150 mark. So that's a pretty good doing something goal that's good for yourself. to the end of the year and then starting all back over again.
Right. I mean, you started pretty young and you started your daughter pretty young, which I think is quite remarkable. And I guess both of your sons are big enthusiasts as well. Do you think that was sort of I mean, I think that's an exceptional thing to have all of your children all be doing yoga under more or less your tutoring or your mentoring. I think that's an exceptional thing that you've done for your family.
It was to me, yoga is very powerful in the fact that it gives them direction in academics as well as athletic ability. Both my boys played baseball throughout high school and were never sitting the bench for an injury. One son was a pitcher and the other, he played first base, and they could stretch, they could do all kinds of stuff. And it just made them better. And then as far as academics, they were very, very focused. And all three kids earned full academic rides to good colleges. And I think it's really that they had the ability to focus.
You think the yoga actually helped them mentally? That's what you're saying.
Definitely.
By the way, I wanted to show this on the screen. I can't put it on, so I'm going to put it. Oops.
Oh, there you go.
I got the picture of the blackboard. I think you should, and maybe the future will be a blackboard like this for everyone that's doing yoga, because it does sort of set up, of course, now I've lost the picture, but I had the picture up
here. It sets you up for success.
It gives you kind of a statement. You know, if you look at that, that's a blackboard that I'm using to set up this sort of hash mark. Now, you do hash marks in a different way. You do it like on the shirts, right? Those are all the hash marks of me sort of saying, yes, I've completed this many. And we got to 66. And I said, we should do this show because it's like getting to 66 sessions when you're in your 60s. When you're 66, it's kind of a 66 at 66, headed to maybe 120 or
that's pretty
hopefully.
Cool.
Yeah. So do you think that's part of it, that you have to make a public proclamation and that's really what gets you to do it?
I think when you tell people your goal, that we all want to cheerlead for people when they have a goal and they start, getting close to it. And I think it's there's a book called Atomic Habits, and it's based on improving 1%, 1%.
Right.
And before long, you've made these super strides. And I think when we break down the habit into small, bite-sized, doable chunks, we're able to make it happen for us every day. And then in the book, it talks about never miss 2 days in a row. You can miss one day, but if you miss 2 days in a row, you're more apt to fall off the wagon. College kids that are now they're college kids, but they were very young at the studio. When you see your parents exercise, you exercise. It's just what you do. But if they see you quit all the time, what's going to happen?
Right. The modeling of parent to child is huge. I mean, I just think in so many different ways, good parents can do so much to help folks sort of help their kids kind of move along. And you've certainly done that for your kids. And I wanted to wrap up with something that's kind of interesting, because I've always believed the workplace should actually figure out ways to help people stay healthy. And of course, there are some workplaces that have gyms, and there are some workplaces that have like yoga rooms. I mean, Twitter was really big. I remember I had a yoga teacher it seemed like decades ago, and Twitter was just starting as a business. And she said, "Oh, I give classes right at Twitter in San Francisco." And I remember at the time saying, they're doing classes during work. And she said, "Oh, it's like before work starts and it's over lunch and it's at like a break in the afternoon. Instead of people drinking a lot of coffee, they're coming to yoga." And at the time, this was like an amazing statement. Of course, Jack Dorsey is a big believer in sort of yoga and things of Western, Eastern medicine. I guess he just took Trump off of Twitter, which is making
Oh.
big news. He's removed,
You might
one of
need
the,
some yoga.
and apparently they called him to make sure he approved the decision, and he was like sunbathing in French Polynesia or something. It was in the news. It was in the news tonight. I was sort of cracking up because I was thinking, there's this guy who looks kind of like a hippie. He's got the big beard. And he's like, yeah, take him off. He violated our rules. And to imagine that. But in a way, he was ahead of his time, and maybe still is, because he did extend to his people this notion that I will supply the teacher and the mat and the water bottle and just show up and you'll get private lessons. And, people thought it was a little wild, but apparently those classes grew and grew. And now there's a whole team of teachers that are in that.
That's awesome.
So I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that become a standard yet, but I have to imagine, I remember when I was a young lawyer, I used to think, well, the thing that lawyers do best is they actually think and write and argue and put thoughts together, and with it, sentences and paragraphs and briefs and so on. And I used to say to the partners of the firm, we should build a pool for people to swim over the lunch break because they'll get their thoughts focused. And they looked at me like I was wacky and crazy. And I said, no, you have that silence inside the pool. But, if you think about it, that's a big expense to build, to maintain, to have a lifeguard for. A yoga studio, you could put that together in a room, if you're right, you could do it.
Yeah, we had one client who he works for Bank of America, and during the whole PPP, he told me that he broke down our classes into 5-minute segments on the hour. So he'd set a kitchen timer, just one of those old-fashioned kitchen timers.
Right.
And when it went off, it was time for him to stand up at his desk and do yoga. So when we were building the subscription, I talked to Esther and I go, I want this 5-minute series in. And so I teach a 5-minute series. You're not watching me. All you're doing is listening. And I'm like, put your hands on the desk, pull your hips back, move your foot forward. And it's just giving you that little bit of, I got to stand up and I got to do something. And then we'll end. Okay, now get back to work. And people love it. They love it. So that guy was way ahead of his time.
Do you think the future will be very much a digital delivery? Because you do have your own digital delivery. You actually have your own app and your own sort of online YouTube and Zoom classes. Do you think that's the future?
I think it's a supplementation of it. Well, there are a couple things. When you find a style of yoga you like, what can go on at a yoga studio is maybe this teacher teaches this way, and this one is this way, and this class is this and that. So you get stuck on what is available at the time you can go. And that's very limiting for people. And it was the one driving force that I only want to do this kind of style and only this kind of style all day long. So people get that same experience. But what goes on inside an actual yoga studio, it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible because the amount of socialization and positivity and the feeling of you just accomplished something together with a lot of people seems like you can't replicate it. But with our subscription, we are trying to replicate it just in one class because I can't really talk to the audience when I'm in the middle of a yoga flow, but I can in a yoga infusion, which the class you're in, the 6:30.
Right.
I can talk to the audience. And I'm like, Jack's over here in the corner, and we've got Linda on TV, and you can make that interactive experience for people who might not be leaving their home or maybe have kids and they can't leave their home or for whatever reason. So I think it's a supplementation, but maybe it'll replace it. I did yoga in my garage for 2 years when I moved to Florida because I couldn't find real hot yoga anywhere. And I went out there every day. I loved it.
And then that's what caused you to start your own studio, right?
Yeah. At the end of the podcast, his name's Philip Orso. He was he worked for Baron Baptiste, one of the creators of Power Yoga. And here, Philip would come on in my garage every day. And, Florida's hot and humid in there. It was awesome. If you want to become a 500-hour teacher, stay tuned at the end of this. Well, then I'm like, well, what? I want to do this. And I already had that, but I wanted to do it with him. And the first time I went to the training was in Appleton, Wisconsin. And he came into, it was amazing because he was this voice in a box, a voice on my stereo. And I was like, it's really him. And I put Christy through his teacher training. I went through it again, and that's pretty cool. So you can create the experience wherever you want. And you can go into a studio, or maybe you want to do it on top of a mountain. My brother was doing it on a hike the other day on this big boulder. Yoga, you could take anywhere, any place, anytime.
So why don't you tell people how they can reach you and how they can get the online class, because you will get some traffic from this and people want to know where to go.
So if you go on Florida Power Yoga Facebook page and scan through that, you'll pick up the link many different places. But it's called FPY Online Yoga. .com is the subscription, and you can go buy it. It's you could buy it monthly, you could buy it annually. We do something very different with our subscriptions in that I see a lot of people tote that they have 1,800 classes in their library. Remember the days of ABC, NBC, and CBS?
Right.
You focused on those.
Right.
You weren't surfing, wasting your time.
Right.
So we put fresh content every single day. We load 2 completely new classes on. So people are loving that aspect of not having this big library. And also you only get my daughter or me for a teacher. So you're getting somebody who is, Christy's has a little over 10,000 classes she's taught. I've got a little over 15,000. 15,000 is a lot of classes.
A lot of classes, and so far no one's died. So you've got a really good track record.
Oh yeah, knock on everything.
I mean, I'm amazed. So far, I haven't seen anyone even throw up, which is pretty good. Sometimes you see people get really, really like they try too hard, but really you have good classes. I think it's one of the best yoga studios in the world. It's definitely highly recommended. I don't think I could have done 66 in a row anywhere else. So that's really making a statement in your favor.
Thank you.
Whether I can get to 132 and then from there to 190 or whatever the magic number is yet to be seen. But thank you for helping me. I just wanted to demarcate this moment because it's a great moment in time to feel like I've accomplished something that maybe actually will slow down the aging process a little bit.
It does. Yoga people look so much younger than people that don't do it.
That's true. And by the way, if you're a single male, you want to go to these classes because it's mostly women. Anyway, thanks. Talk to you later, Chrissy.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
I called Chrissy, Denice. Sorry. Talk to you later.
You're okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, Jack.
Bye-bye.
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.